Hello again, Prefrontal touring fans, and welcome to episode 5, A New Way to the Blue Way, where we explore a new camera mount, get a look at why we do it, your first glimpse of who is doing it, and meet interesting people. Stay tuned. This episode, we're taking a ride from Denver, North Carolina through Lincolnton, south of the South Mountain State Park, turning north toward Morganton, and then through Glen Alpine and around the north side of Lake James to Marion and up Highway 80 to the Blue Ridge Parkway, then north to Little Switzerland through Alta Pass and Linville Falls, turning south at Jonas Ridge onto 181 past Brown Mountain, the popular UFO viewing site, into Morganton, picking up I-40 to Hickory and Conover, then back to Denver on 16. With prep, it was a trip of about 5.5 hours, 230 miles, and over 17,000 feet of elevation. I chose this route because Highway 80 on the map looked like it had great twisties here and here. The map didn't do it justice, however, and as it turned out, it had great twisties. Here and here and here and here and here. The primary purpose of today's trip was to test the 8-inch vertical handlebar camera mount to see if it was better than mounts we've used in previous videos, and I can honestly say it was a complete disaster. While it did give a good perspective as if the viewer's riding the bike, it picked up all the dirt on the windshield, it picked up all the vibration of the windshield and some of the glare, and it also vibrated like crazy, overcoming the camera's internal anti-shake mechanism and requiring a lot of post-processing afterwards for this video to make most of the footage viewable. And as a final how do you do, it added a super annoying buzz to the audio as the camera vibrated inside its own case, and I was able to mute most of that out of the video. So let's get started with the trip report. It's a beautiful day. We're heading out through West Denver, really at the beginning of the trip, and looking forward to a great day of riding. We're approaching an intersection. The car ahead of us or two pulls off, which looks like it's going to be great. And then this guy. What's that all about? He spins his tires so much he's got to keep 4 spares in the bed of the pickup. I think he was proud of himself for giving me a smoke job, and he did it a few times, but then he only went a couple of miles, hit the brakes, and kind of pulled off in front of me anyway, so not sure what that's all about. You see it a lot in West Denver, but we're going to let that go, and we're not going to let it ruin an otherwise great trip. A lot of West Lincoln is pretty riding. It's bucolic farm fields, and there's not really much to show on a video other than it's really nice secondary roads and some interesting Americana to see along the way. As you get closer to Lake James, there are some twisties and some good riding, I guess. The brush is very close on both sides of the road. I wouldn't want to ride this too much in the early morning or the early evening when it's deer 30 out. It is somewhat rough, patches of concrete or patches of asphalt, but overall it's a pretty countryside ride, and you do get into some of these twisties just before you get to Lake James. So this part of the day was nice, getting back into the spirit of riding on some easy curves before getting into the tougher stuff later, going up onto the Blue Ridge Parkway. Lake James itself was a very nice lake. I did not get a lot of it on video, but it reminded me of lakes we're used to in the Northeast, where the water is nice and clear and has a green hue to it. You could see down into the water and see the rocks. There were quite a few boats out on it. It is a state park. This is on Highway 126, which skirts from the eastern end around the northern side of the entire lake and all the way to the western side and just a bit south of the lake into the town of Marion. There were some very nice twisties also along 126, and it was in quite a bit better shape than the road on the eastern side of the lake on the approach. So as you recall, we went to Marion and then turned north up Highway 80 that was full of twisties, going past Lake Tahoma, and then getting into a long stretch of curves and switchbacks all the way up to a point on the Blue Ridge Parkway that doesn't really have a name, and turning north at Hazelnut Gap, headed for Linville Falls. This was one of the more fun stretches of the ride, just because of the curves and the elevation. Even if I was stuck behind a car, stuck behind a minivan that wasn't going all that fast, but that wasn't really the point. Still a beautiful day and still a great ride on the motorcycle. Throughout the day, I was quite surprised at how many people were mowing grass clippings onto the roadway. Either people using rider mowers on their home lawns or commercial mowers with those big deck mowers that they stand on a board and get dragged along behind, blowing tons of grass clippings in the town of Newton onto the two-lane divided highway. Two-wheeled vehicles don't like riding across slippery things like wet leaves or grass clippings. Some people have been seriously injured or even killed because of grass clippings on the road. So I was a bit surprised, but perhaps I shouldn't be. North Carolina does have a tremendous amount of debris on its roads: gravel, asphalt shingles, vinyl siding, lots of things that just don't ever get removed from the road surface, perhaps because they don't plow snow like the Northeast states. I don't know. I've never seen a street sweeper down here cleaning off the roads, and so things tend to collect in the corners anyway, especially at intersections in those little strips of road where cars never seem to go. And perhaps I shouldn't be surprised to see people not paying too much attention to it, even if it is a hazard to the biking public. So after missing my turn to get onto the Blue Ridge Parkway, I made a cautious but expedient turnaround in a gravel side lot and got up onto the parkway and headed for one of the first overlooks. And coming in at number one on today's Billboard Hits is Why We Do It, which for the Blue Ridge Parkway is the fantastic views from up here in just about all directions, depending on which way the parkway bends and which side you're looking off. Here's your first glimpse at the guy that actually does it and the trusty steed in the background. At that point, the day was only half over, and there was still plenty of Blue Ridge Parkway to cover, along with some tunnels on the way to Linville. We turned down Highway 1530 past Brown Mountain, which is a popular UFO viewing site. People have seen lights and other odd things in the sky there for many, many years, and then picked up Hickory, Morganton, etc. on the way back, and made it home after 5.5 hours and about 230 miles. Overall, a fantastic day. Glad to have you along. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.